Okay, here it is, the 2001 Dodge Ram HO. We're going to be installing a 6-speed Allison 1000 series automatic in it. Originally it's a 6-speed manual transmission. Okay, here it is, the 1000 Allison 6-speed. Getting ready to install it in place of the manual 6-speed we had before. Oh, there's my grandson in the background. Little Jack. Here's the underside of this project. We're going to have to be shortening that drive line up. I'm going to adapt that transfer case to the new transmission. Here's our 6-speed manual we have now. We'll be removing that and have a 6-speed automatic. Since we're doing this on the lift, I found it easier to go ahead and just remove the transfer case since we're using this transmission jack, and then we're bringing the transmission down separately. Okay, we got the transmission installed up in the unit. On the back of the transmission itself, we had to heat up a tone ring and install it on the output shaft of the transmission. And then, of course, as you can see there's an adapter that adapts the transmission to the transfer case. And I think the main reason for that is to accept that speed sensor you see right there. It also has a stub shaft that connects the two together to take up the distance. Everything went quite smooth. There's the transmission mount. I believe now it's a Ford transmission mount. It's pretty similar to the original, got small changes. Let's see, there's a bracket that's right there below the mount that adapts, comes in the kit, adapts it to the factory transmission cross member. I decided to go ahead and modify the transmission cross member. Didn't seem to need that extra clearance or material there. And that gained me clearance for the transmission pan. I'm going to be installing a deeper pan on there, a factory Allison deep pan. I'll show you that once we get that installed. Now I'll start working on the linkage. We had a manual transmission before, so now we have automatic. I went and sourced out of the wrecking yard this bell crank, as you can see up there. Supplied with the kit is a bracket that goes on this bell housing bolt. Connects to that bell crank. Hopefully you can see that. Had a little tough time sourcing that bell crank. There's a few different models. This one here, most of the ones I find are like that, and it seems to have the existing holes already in the frame rail, and it goes right in there. There is other years available. See here, there's one right here. This is one that we found in a different one. Apparently that's the wrong style bracket, so you don't want that for this particular vehicle. I recommend putting some oil in the torque converter for installing it. We're using the Transcend. It's a synthetic transmission fluid. The cheapest place I've found to source it is from your local Allison dealer. We're going to be moving those wires from the starter over to the other side. I'll try to give you some more pictures of that as we install the starter. Drive lines, so far I'm not sure if we're going to be shortening them or changing the length of them. I'm going to get it down on the ground, kind of look at that a little closer. Okay, we've now got the dipstick tube in place. It took a little modifying, had to heat it up and bend it in a few spots to make it come. You can see that right up by the intake area. We also, the tab that secures it to the bell housing, had to kind of customize that. There's that bell crank again with the bracket. The torque converter bolts were a bit of a pain. Apparently once you put one bolt in, kind of snug it up, you don't want to tighten them all at the same time, so put them in, leave them loose and rock it around. Apparently the torque converter center hub must not have popped in the hole, so as I started and put the other ones in, it kind of locked up. So I'd recommend maybe trying to pry that torque converter up in the hole or tighten it up once and then back it back off. But either way, it caused me some problems. I had to loosen up the bell housing bolts to make clearance and then go back and redo everything. But we got it in, it's turning now. There's that larger pan that we talked about. It's straight all the way across the bottom. Looks to be at least 3 inches deep or so. And then we've installed the neutral safety switch and also the backup switch. It goes right behind the shifter. We still got to work on that shift linkage connecting these two together. We'll do that once we get it down on off the rack. The skid shield, I'm going to be modifying it, try to get a little protection there. It's going to be cut down and re-welded. And let's see, over here the cooler lines, we decided to go with a single wire hydraulic hose. I think it'll last a lot longer than just some barb fittings and push-on hose. I got to install the cooler up in the front. We just have the hoses hanging there for now, but we're going to be doing that once we drop it down in the rack as well. Hopefully this gives you guys a little insight of what it takes to make this happen. We'll deal with the drive lines also as we bring it down. Okay, we got our shift linkage installed. Just took a couple 5/16 Heims and some 5/16 all thread. And kind of see, we put one at each end, made the proper adjustments. Put a lock nut there on the shift arm itself. I think you already seen the belt crank and the way it all attaches. We've also got this cooler now installed. I decided to go ahead and put some wrap over the hoses just as some added protection. 45 pipe fittings right at the bottom of each of the cooler. This is a Hayden 1260 cooler, I believe. It's about 13 inches tall. That became a bit of a problem because, as you can see, the hood is right at the cooler. So if we put it up anywhere, I originally was going to put it in the center. The hood latch for the safety release seems to be in the way. So we lowered it down. Fortunately, we're going to put an aftermarket fabricated bumper on this truck. So I think it's going to work out okay. But you might keep that in mind for yours, or maybe go with a shorter cooler. Might give you a little more clearance. I just wanted all the cooling for this tranny I can get, since this was a manual truck. Had no cooler in the radiator. And then we went ahead and hooked up some of the electronics. There was 2 boxes we installed. One right there in the firewall, right where the reservoir for the clutch slave cylinder used to be. The other one, you probably can't see it, but it's down in that corner. We put it down there, pop riveted in the corner. There's just a few wires you can see breaking off here. A few of them go inside for the tap shifter, key power. The main power we tied into this box right here. We had to reverse the battery cables. We took the positive battery cable from the left-hand battery and put it on the right-hand battery, and the right one on the left. Had to extend some wires and do some changes there in order to make the cable run down to the starter right there, because now the starter's on the right-hand side. We do have to T-tap the throttle positioning switch. Take out those 3 bolts, lay that aside. And our unit, it was the number 3 wire. It was a light blue wire with a tracer. We T-tapped that wire for the throttle positioning switch. In the kit, there's a blue wire that you feed into it. Usually has about 0.4 volts at idle and about 4 point something when you're wide open throttle. As long as you got the right wire there. We didn't have the right wire originally, and the transmission didn't want to move at all. I'll take you around inside here. And we tied in under the dash, took that all off and tied the wires we needed into there. We taking the 08 Dodge Ram shifter, purchased it, heated up the handle itself, pulled it off of there, fed the wires through the tube and tied it in, so we'll have tap shifting. There's an optional display you can buy, put in here, and you can see every gear that you're in. We're probably going to get that down the road. Of course, you can see the indicator there. That wasn't there originally because it had a manual trans, so we installed that along with the column, things needed. This red light we installed, that's our check engine light. Out under the hood, there's a place where you can plug on your OBD1 connector. We got to get a few trim packages and plug that hole where the manual trans went. We'll work on that. Now that the unit's down on the ground, doesn't look like we'll have to be modifying the drive lines in any way. They seem to have adequate clearance, possibly because it has a slight lift to the truck. Maybe that's why. The other process we got to go through is we got to get the transmission up to 145 degrees temperature. Of course, check the fluid level one more time. And then you got to go through the adaptive learn process, which is to take the unit out on the road, drive it gently through all the gears. You're going to pull off, come to a complete stop. You're going to go through all the gears at half throttle. You're going to pull off and stop, then go through all the gears at full throttle. And you're going to do that several times. And that should set the transmission's adaptive learn feature. Now that we got it done, no more shifting, makes it a joy to drive. Besides, this is supposed to be a 1,000,000-mile transmission, so I shouldn't have to be rebuilding this thing ever. Hopefully this all helps you. If you need any assistance, you can get all the people at CA Conversions. They've been a great help. Wonderful company. Or if you think I can assist you in any way, feel free to get a hold of me. My name's Jerry. I'm with McKellar's Modified Rides. Thanks.